What's going on, everybody? In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to avoid order cancels for your online arbitrage business. I understand this can be probably the most annoying, concerning, and frustrating thing that you go through when you're actually trying to buy product. So in this video, I want to clear up all of the concerns and issues that you're having right now and experiencing with these order cancels. So first, let's get into it. Order cancels can be a pain and feel nearly impossible to get around. Trust me, I was there at one point. I understand this. Even till this day, I deal with order cancels really on a daily basis. Okay. And every time you find a product that you feel like you struck gold on, you're only let down once it's time to actually start buying that product. Okay. I know how this feels. It's really frustrating. But the first thing we need to look at is the common reasons that cause order cancels. And then it's going to be your job for each supplier that you're buying from to figure out what are the likely causes based on the list I'm about to give you in this video that is triggering those suppliers that you're buying from to either start canceling your orders, or if they've been canceling orders for a while now, this should hopefully help. And I want to break this into 5 different pillars here. So let's get into the first one. Okay, so the first reason, and I would say probably the most common and the most likely, is going to be that your order frequency and you're placing duplicated orders and you're just doing it way too fast. Okay, so this is when you're placing too many orders rapidly, causing the retailer to suspect that this could be for resale or potential fraud. Or if you place orders that are all exactly the same, this would be a duplicated order. Here's how I'd recommend avoiding this. First, you're going to want to space each order you place on unfamiliar sites by at least 5 minutes. Okay, you want to give their system some time to breathe and actually process your order and know that this guy is not buying to resale or it's not a fraud transaction. Because the funny thing is most of these suppliers actually don't care if you resell the products. What they really are looking for is fraud and trying to prevent fraud on their sites. I'd also recommend keeping orders on new suppliers capped at a maximum of 5 daily, and even lower if you've just started placing orders from them, like this is your first time ever. I typically look at like 3 max and really just like to space that out within an hour or so when you're unfamiliar with them at first. And for duplicated orders, if you can, definitely mix quantity and ASINs if you have multiple ASINs when possible. Now, I understand that some ASINs in some quantities are required to be as cheap and as low as possible to get the buy cost to where you need it to get. So I totally understand this will not be applicable every single time. But if you have the opportunity, would definitely start mixing and matching some stuff per order, just so that not every order looks the same. And again, you really just got to think about, how do I not trigger any sort of fraud triggering system? So this is going to be probably the biggest reason. And then we're going to dig into how this main point kind of funnels the rest of these, because sometimes, yes, it is order frequency and duplicated orders, but depending on who the supplier is, there's really nothing you can do about it. And that's going to lead us into our second point, which is going to be coupon abuse and usage limits. So this is going to be when a coupon code such as a first time sign up code or an AutoShip based program is being abused. The retailer will ban you from placing orders with them. Okay, so retailers do actually have usage limits on especially things like an AutoShip program. Okay, so back in the day, Chewy.com used to be a really big thing to do AutoShip on, more so when I first started, and I spammed the hell out of that. And basically what happened was I got my account banned, and they personally called me and said, hey, you're banned because you're abusing our AutoShip program. And this will happen if you're not careful. So what I would recommend to avoid these things is to use these discounts sparingly. Okay, more specifically, stuff that tells you it's a first time subscriber only, or it's an AutoShip program that's meant for first time subscribers, right? These type of discounts are usually meant for first time buyers. And the way you figure out if you can actually loop these or not is you just have to trial and error and see if they're canceling your orders due to the limits in usage history with these coupon or AutoShip program discounts. So you have to figure out which sites care and do not care about these particular coupon usages. Most places generally don't care about sign-up codes. And if you use a catch-all email, which you can get through Squarespace or Google, and you use a different phone number, which you could get through text-free, these places really aren't going to get on you that much or haggle you. However, again, this is very supplier to supplier based. This is just what I'm telling you that I've seen can be a reason for canceling. But AutoShip codes can 100% get you banned. I would say AutoShip is probably the more common denominator with abusing limits, just because AutoShip is a very easily trackable thing for these websites to actually catch you doing, as opposed to if you have a different email, phone number, or even just a different email with a catch-all and you're just getting a sign-up code over and over and over. A lot of places really don't care about that stuff, especially if you're placing orders signed out, for example. So again, this is entirely different supplier to supplier and something you will have to experiment and test for yourself. Okay, so that's going to be point 2, which leads us into our third point, which is going to be something simple such as a billing information mismatch. All right, so this is when your billing info does not match your credit card billing info, meaning a fraud prevention will trigger for most retailers. Very easy to avoid. Just make sure that your billing info matches what is on your payment method. If you're paying entirely with gift cards, then you do not need to worry about these things matching, because the gift card actually acts as like a mask to billing info. So you could really actually set that info to if you were using a prep center, which is what I like to do because I like to have everything matching when possible. But let's say you have product going to a prep center and your billing address is your home address. That is still perfectly fine that they're mismatched as long as the billing info matches what is actually on your credit card. Very simple, but I know it's overlooked and some retailers and distributors do care about this. So that's going to be point 3. Point 4 is going to be an address or account ban. This is when the retailer is going to be auto canceling in most cases. And you'll kind of know if they're auto canceling because right when you place the order, they're going to send you a follow-up email stating, hey, we've canceled your order, and then they won't tell you why. Okay, this is probably a direct indication that your account has been banned or the address that you're sending to is not available for them. Some retailers and distributors will also tell you that you cannot send to a freight forwarding address if you use a prep center or a warehouse. And in that case, you do just kind of have to either send to another address or drop the supplier. There's not much you can do about that. I will say in most cases, most retailers don't care that you send to a prep center. It's mainly going to boil down to, these factors up here, which is frequency and usage abuse. That's going to really get you banned on the forefront. Most places won't automatically off rip just ban you because you're sending to a prep center, for example. But over time, maybe that's something that they do enforce, or that's just something that that supplier specifically does not like doing. So what I would recommend is to create a new account under all new information. Ideally, you're going to want to create on a different device or Wi-Fi connection. What this does is it basically messes with the retailer and makes them think that this is a completely new browser profile and a new device, which is going to allow you to bypass any fingerprint tracking that they've been doing on the back end to have you blacklisted from their site and ultimately banned. Okay, if your address is banned, you will need to jig it slightly. So basically you're just modifying the formatting. So this can be stuff like putting a space in between your name, putting a space in between the address name. If you have a suite number or a unit number, you can put a different unit number or capitalize, undercase, whatever it may be, to try to push orders through. This is something that I do pretty commonly just because it's a good way to sort of navigate these and avoid them. But this is going to lead into the 5th and final point of this video, and that's really going to be that the supplier is not bulk friendly. All right, this is just where you're trying to buy and force products from a supplier that is not going to give you product. Okay, they will cancel your orders if you exceed their limits and thresholds. So really, this is the best way that I like to avoid or navigate this, which is going to be first, let's learn how many orders you can actually place daily and stick to that. These suppliers are going to be best used in moderation because I don't recommend completely cutting somewhere off if it's not going to supply you with 100 units at a time, and maybe they only give you 10, 30, 40. That's okay. Let's still use that in congruence with all the other places we're buying from, but let's not waste more time trying to push more orders that are never going to get through, and let's rather spend that time finding new brands, new suppliers, and ultimately new products. You're better off sourcing from places that actually want your business rather than fighting order cancels and limits all day. So this is going to be more of that experimenting and testing phase that you need to go through as a seller to figure out what are your favorite suppliers, what are your favorite brands, and ultimately what are the favorite places you like to buy from because of their ease of friendliness and implementation with your business. And then again, like if you're navigating places that are going to just hard restrict you on how much you can buy, you have to find that answer out for yourself and really just work that into your systems. And you're going to have probably a couple suppliers on your buy sheet that do this, and that's totally okay as long as you're buying from them daily, keeping your orders low, keeping maybe your quantity and frequency low, and ultimately you're still going to push spend through while not wasting a bunch of mental bandwidth and also physical labor to actually try and push orders through on something that's not going to work. Okay, and that's going to be basically the 5 pillars and reasons that I have seen and how to avoid cancels for online arbitrage. I'm going to jump into a couple products here and just give you some background on my history with these products. Okay, so first we have this product here, which is going to be Beyond the Zone Noodle Head Kick Up Your Curls Curling Cream. Okay, I used to sell this way back in the day as one of my first products that I probably sold, and the place that I was buying this from at the time was Sally Beauty. Okay, and Sally Beauty for me personally has been somewhere that I can just no longer get orders through on. They are not bulk friendly, they are not reseller friendly, and it was pretty quick that I realized that, hey, they're going to ban my account and there's not much I can do. So what happened with this product from Sally Beauty was basically I was placing maybe a couple orders a day, maybe 3 orders to 5 orders a day. And then what happened was very simply, it just boiled down to the first reason, which was going to be order frequency and duplicated orders, right? So I was just ordering too much for what they wanted me to order, which was still a very low and manageable amount, especially because the quantities that I was putting in these orders was like 5 to 10 units. But regardless, they didn't care. They didn't want me buying all that product because they flagged me as a reseller. Okay. And in this example, when I was buying from Sally Beauty for this product, I would spend days trying to force orders through until I realized this is probably not worth my time, right? So what did I do? Well, I was going to originally go to this resolution, which is that supplier's not bulk friendly. Let's just buy a couple units a day or whatever the case was, a couple orders, I should say. And I soon realized that they're just not going to let me buy at all, which had led to an account ban. Okay. At this point, I was trying to send to friends' addresses, my my address. I was trying to jig information. Nothing was going through. So at this point, I did just give up. And unfortunately, sometimes that's how it's going to have to be. But that allowed me, once I gave up on that, to go find products from other retailers and other places that wanted to take my money. Okay, so sometimes you're going to have an example like this where you will have a product that you've been buying for a little bit and you want to buy more and they don't let you, and then eventually they just clip your account and there really isn't much you can do about it. Okay, we want to try and avoid getting to that point because you obviously want to keep as many bridges unburned as possible, but some places really don't care, and even with all of these fixes, they will eventually get to you. But the best way to avoid a Sally Beauty situation like this is going to be to just be gentle and be careful with your order frequency and your duplicated orders, because at this time I wasn't abusing any coupons or first time signups, right? I was just looping products regularly, so that was not an issue. It was really just they didn't like the frequency at which I was buying their products. But one thing I want to leave you with is that because I was buying so few products, this just tells me that they weren't going to be good to work with anyways, right? Because if you're only buying 2 orders a day and they're going to clip your account regardless of that small amount of order volume, then that's probably not a place that you want to work with anyways. Now, if they let you place 2 orders a day with, let's say, 5 to 10 units in each, yet they never ban your account, then that's totally fine. You just integrate them as part of your daily workflow, right? But if they're going to ban me anyways, then it's better that I've dropped them and left them in the past than to keep trying and trying and trying. Okay, and then the next product example is going to be this Eheim Feed Air Fish Feeder. So this used to be a product that I would get from Chewy back in the day before they had banned me, and this was sort of a mix of 2 different scenarios. So Chewy I had gotten banned on personally because I was looping AutoShip, but it wasn't on this particular product. It was on some random pet products that I probably can't even remember at this point, but it was like toys or something like that, treats, and I was looping their AutoShip with different accounts because it was only available to first-time subscribers, and this had ultimately led to me getting banned, which had cut off this replan that I was getting at the time. This sucked because obviously this was a replan. I wanted to keep buying it, but Chewy ultimately banned me, and this was my fault in particular for abusing their AutoShip policy, which is ultimately what happened here and led me into problem number 2, which is that I was abusing their AutoShip limits. And this sucks because I could have actually kept replanning this because I wasn't using this product to actually get the AutoShip discount, and I was just buying it regularly with discounted gift cards because it was profitable at the time, which, you know, obviously right now this product is probably not even sold on Chewy anymore, but, you know, maybe 2 years ago or something right here, you know, this product was obviously popping off and people were buying it pretty well. And this is why I'm saying you guys really want to try and avoid getting banned if possible. Now, I don't think you should fearmonger and not test new limits and see how far you can take it with certain suppliers, but especially when you're new to certain suppliers in the beginning, it's a good idea just to be a little bit conservative and have low expectations, right? Don't think that a supplier is going to let you rip a bunch of orders or let you loop AutoShip forever, because eventually some things will catch up, especially like these AutoShip promotions, where if they are mainly a big retailer, then, you know, they're obviously going to catch on because they have the systems in place to stop these kind of things. So you just want to be smart about it, right? The main goal here is just to not get banned. That's like the biggest thing I can give you guys as a good piece of advice, because if I didn't get banned on Chewy, for example, I would probably still be buying this. Maybe not today because I don't think it's sold there anymore, but back in the day, definitely would have kept buying it. So that's going to be pretty much everything for this video. One thing I'm going to let you guys in on is if you haven't subscribed to my free newsletter, definitely be sure to check it out. I give game each week on Wednesdays talking about stuff like this on how to help you start and scale your own arbitrage business. So if you haven't signed up yet, definitely recommend you going ahead and doing so. That's going to be all for me in this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace out.